Hello YouTubers, hello and welcome back. Thank you very much for all the messages I got from the last video. Thank you very much for all of those who contributed. And I learnt something new on this kit. I didn't realise that there was an actual special diode that you can tune with, which is what I was told about. I've never heard of this before. Maybe this is the reason why there's no markings on the casing and they don't test on the usual Atlas DCA Pro Peak tester. That's a DCA 75 I've been using. They tested as bad and I didn't know any different. I've never heard of this kind of diode that you tune with, because there is no tuner. I thought it might be to do with, one of the ICs. Anyway, I wasn't going to put this kit together because I think there's a chance that it won't work, a good chance. The reason why I'm thinking this is that there is more than one version of this exact same kit. All different revisions, different versions, slightly different layout and different components used. The basics, the ICs, what I've found to be the same, and some of the bigger parts, they're all about the same and they all connect up in about the same way. But when you look at the parts that I did get, the board that I have and the schematic I've got, and then you go on the internet and look at the various different versions of this, parts of the circuit is different. Parts of the circuit are exactly the same. I think someone's been playing around with the design to improve on it, and the different versions of it improving it in some way or another. That's all I can see. I don't know any more than that. So if you look at what I've done here so far, I've just put in one component, which is this here. So obviously that goes with this board. But when you look at that, we've got some tracks that are square and going around in a square shape. You can see it there in the middle of the picture. That's more or less about the same places where this adjustable trimmer coil, or whatever you want to call it, goes. And on the board it's shown as L1, but I don't think I remember seeing that on the parts. Let's have a look a minute. Right, this is the parts list, 2 pages. That's one page, this is the other page. And I'm just going to show the ICs which I talked about in the last video, which you weren't able to see because I was looking at something else. Sorry lads. Those are the chips anyway. That's the list of parts there, and this is the list of parts on the other side. And the only transformer is T1, which is a 7x7 10.7 megahertz IF can, I would call that. All the rest of the parts listed are resistors, pots and capacitors. There's nothing else. So we have a discrepancy with the parts list to what I actually have, and we're using a different board. Now the board, let's have a look at the board a minute. Oh, my shoulder, excuse me a minute. Right, that's the name we looked at before, but it's saying it's version 4.3. Now this is a picture of the unit that I bought on the internet. That's the kit that we've been looking at. And if you look, there is the square shaped with a dot in the middle, which we pointed out to you before, which is there in the middle of the picture. That's not the board we've got. We've got a different board, and we've got a different set of parts to this. So they're not even displaying the correct photo, they're just picked on any old photo. Not good. Now this is a picture of the case. Now there is a version of this exact same thing with that case for sale on eBay. So I'll show you that. And this is it here. I'll try and get a better picture. And as you can see, it is different. I mean, see these parts here, they're not there. It's different, slightly different again. That's it there. That's a lot dearer, and it's from the United States. Someone's selling this. So this is why I don't hold my breath that this is actually going to work, because we can only go off the information that we have. So what I think we'll do is we'll try, put it together, see what happens. Either it will or it will not work. And likely it won't work because wrong parts have been soldered into the wrong place. But we will do our best. That's all I can do. Do my best. We've got some information which is better than nothing. Now, I'm not going to film putting every single component together on this board. There's too many parts and it'll make a really long, boring video. So we'll film me doing it in stages. Okay? And try and keep this a reasonable length video without going too long. So further ado, we'll turn our soldering iron on. And what I'm going to do for the first, just bear with me a second while I remove all the paperwork. The first thing I'm going to do, whoops, it's got a life of its own, hasn't it? First thing we're going to do is the hardest part of the kit, the most boring part of the kit, and that's all these disc capacitors. Sort them out into their different types, different piles. I might even bag them up, and then once we've done that, the different numbers, I mean there's one there, 104, we'll put all the 104s together, etc, etc. So that we haven't got to go hunting, and we know how many of each type of capacitor we have. And I'm going to solder in all these disc caps. We'll do the usual with the circuit board. We'll clean it with the fiberglass pen, the same as before, and we'll use flux, same as before, as I've done in the other kit that I put together, the transmitter bug thing by Dasio. Okay. So with further ado, we'll get these caps in and then I'll show you my progress. Okay, see you in a bit. Right, having gone through all the capacitors, we've isolated them out. Took a little while. Magnifying glass, better than the phone this time. We've got 10 too many 104s. We got 474, yeah, and 27s we got, no problem. 10, no problem. 2 doesn't go anywhere. 2, number 2. No, number 2 doesn't exist. 102, 102, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, we have the correct number of 102s. 103s. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That tallies. So we've got some capacitors here that don't exist. We've probably got some that are missing. This is the problem, you see. what it says on there, what the parts are, might not correspond with this. So we will do our best. This is the trouble why I think we might have problems with this kit. It might work, it might not. If it does work, it might work brilliantly, or it might not work quite so well, whatever. Don't know. I suppose suck it and see. So what we'll do is we'll put in the single value parts first, and then we'll go on to the bulk number of parts. That number 2 is supposed to be C3 and C4, which goes there. We only have one. So like I say, we've got parts discrepancies already. So I'm going to have to go through my stash of capacitors and look up. But I mean, as I say, I'm only filming this in little bits. This takes a long time, sorting these parts out, okay? It's not a 5-second job, it takes time. Right there, we're just making a start. We've got the music on, and then we've got this soldering iron heating up. That's how we're going so far. But remembering with this, it's a double-sided circuit board. So each time I solder a part in, I check the other side to make sure that it has sufficient solder to make connections. Can you see that? Check every single one as you go. Right, I just want to show you me putting in one part and then explain to you that I'm doing the same for every part. Okay? So try and keep it short because I don't want this to be too long. At the moment we're on 103s, which is that one there. And the next one is C12. So the next thing we do is look on the circuit board to find C12. That's how we're going so far. But remembering with this, it's a double-sided circuit board. So each time I solder a part in, I check the other side to make sure that it has sufficient solder to make connections. Can you see that? Check every single one as you go. So here on the board is C12. So we get our capacitor, zoom out, zoom, get our capacitor, which is one of these, check that it is the one, always double check, should be 102, just about to see that. Dunk it in the alcohol, wipe it on here, and then I dunk it in the flux to get lots of flux on the wires itself, so that when I push the capacitor or any other part through the holes, it's going to push flux through the holes. Okay, I need 2 hands for this next bit. So there's C12 at the back there, and that's what it looks like on the other side. And this thing I'm doing is I'm putting just a little bit of flux on the bottom. Make sure there's plenty of flux. Remember, we can always wash this off with alcohol later. I'm putting all the components in that don't have sockets or compartments, so that it doesn't matter how much alcohol I use. So there's our capacitor soldered in. Now it's just a matter of clipping the leads. But before we do that, turn it over and check to make sure that the other side is also soldered. I check each one individually as I do it. And we do that for every single part we put on. Hello YouTube, this is about as far as I got on Sunday. Today's Monday. I haven't done any soldering today. I've just been lounging around. Mind you, I was talking to a friend till nearly well, 1 o'clock in the morning and nearly 2 o'clock in the morning before I went to bed. Anyway, I come to the bench because I found out a bit more about these special diodes, and that's the symbol for it. And I found out how these work, because remember, I have no idea anything about these. So I've been on the internet, I've come across All American 5 radios. He's done some videos on these. I suggest you do a search and have a look for yourself, and you'll be able to see it explained in detail, which is very, very good. Now I understand how they work. That's the symbol, which is a diode and a capacitor on the front. And how it works is basically, as the voltage increases, the capacitance decreases. That's where the tuning comes in. Now my problem is that, as you can see, it's a diode with a capacitor on the front end, which tells me that the diode only goes in one way. But as previously said, there is no markings on the diode, and the diode tests as bad. I've used my Fluke down there to test it, and it tests the same both ways. So I have absolutely no idea how to test these, and is these working okay? Is this the characteristics of this component? So I'm still going to install them and see what happens. Either it will work or it won't. I don't know. I haven't come across these before, as I've said. So I hope that's of interest. I won't be doing any more soldering today, as I've got all these capacitors to solder in. I'm doing those first before I go on to anything else. And once they're in, and I found the capacitors that are missing, because there is number 2 missing, which is not capacitor 2. There's C3 and C4 is 2 picofarads, and I only have 1. So what I'll be doing is finding the other one and soldering them in. Okay. Probably try and do some tomorrow, Tuesday. Today's Monday. I've got doctor's appointment late afternoon and physio late morning. See you tomorrow, hopefully.